Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. I hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far with the Esports World Cup concluding just a few days ago. Big stories emerging from Scrappy and certainly from FeLo on exactly how things were at the event and the fact that they might need to be somewhat more careful for next year. The etiquette rules, the sportsmanship rules going into the event were enforced potentially more so than some people expected. FeLo saying that he was on the verge of getting a fine and Scrappy revealing just how much that fine would have been, especially if one of these guys had gone on to win the tournament. Very much into your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I greatly appreciate it. Couple of cards, by the way, for the entirety of the CDL season. These were aBeZy's cards for this year. His online numbers were as follows. LAN, he got better, and overall, he was just pretty damn good as well. So, you know, I think, well, generally you expect LAN to be worse than online, just because on LAN, you play better teams if you are a better team. Online, you're 25 in 3 for FaZe online this year is pretty ridiculous, isn't it? Like, despite the fact that we talked about FaZe, we talked about their problems, like, they still put up an absolutely legendary season, and, like, they won 2 events at the end of the day. One of them was the World Cup, one of them was Major 2, not as big of events as OpTic 1 and Major 3 and Champs respectively, but, you know, still a great season from FaZe. Not aBeZy's best ever season, but his overall numbers are really impressive, and I think his LAN numbers especially, the fact that he got substantially better at hardpoint on LAN, just in terms of like impact and kills per 10, that's a big deal, especially because the point that I was trying to make was, online you play an average of every other team in the league, whereas on LAN, especially if you're making lots of championship Sundays, you're playing only the best teams. So for most players, their LAN numbers, even for the top guys, are worse than online, because online they're farming against bad teams. On LAN they can't, because they're playing the best of the best Saturday and Sunday at the tournament. But that didn't seem to affect aBeZy. And aBeZy also falling into this category as well. One of the interesting things about his game really is that lots of green here, and you know, 92 rated overall LAN card, very impressive. But I thought the hill time as well, like the fact that he's up here is purple hill time online and overall, so this effectively means #1 hill time in his role in the entire league. That makes him a pretty, you know, potential replacement for some of these ARs. Like if you are a Thieves and you're looking for like a potential AR candidate, aBeZy can be a guy that can put up a lot of hill time. If you are even Toronto and you are going to get rid of Insight, then, you know, they've made him a restricted free agent, so they seem to be kind of committed to that move, but I guess time will tell. aBeZy can get a lot of hill time. Same story maybe for Skyz on Cloud9, but you know, there's some debate on this, and he was good across the other game modes as well, certainly held his own. Seems like Dashy and some of the other OpTic boys are getting methods into Valorant. Of course, we know that Dashy, you know, he loves playing that game, and he's been criticized for playing it over the last couple of years, but they can't criticize him anymore, because now he's a world champion, and as in he says, I'm skipping the gym today and playing Valorant all day. Link in bio. But let's talk about some of the drama of the World Cup, and that was related to the personal integrity and good sportsmanship. Now, this is a feature that they tried to add, I suppose, just the nature of like the culture and what they wanted to do with the event, how they wanted it to be perceived, more professional, less trash talk, this type of stuff. Now, did we still see a fair bit of trash talk? Yes. We still saw players standing up, talking trash across the stage. We still saw players calling out the other guys on the other side. The post-game interviews, okay, if the questions are better, we'd probably have seen some, you know, better answers there. So it still felt a bit normal, but it felt a little bit more dulled down. I will say that I think the players couldn't do as much as they wanted to do in-game and on the main stage, but as a result of that, they were taking to Twitter more so than usual. Like, we saw lots of tweets from Sib and from Kenny and from many others just roasting players on the timeline, because I guess that wasn't enforced at all. What was enforced was the in-game stuff, whether you're teabagging the opponent, whether you're shooting bodies, or whether you're just, you know, throwing up the middle fingers, right? Because this is obviously what Scrappy loves to do. Crimp as well managed to find a way to prevent himself from doing so at the event, but this was per the rulebook, and, you know, this is what it described at the event. Now, the question was, how much was this going to be enforced, if at all? Were they really going to care? But actually, no, it turns out they did care, and they did enforce this, at least to a certain extent. FeLo even revealing a pretty funny story, because, of course, he was on the Ravens. They were playing Vegas a couple of times during the tournament, and, you know, FeLo was basically having their way with Vegas at this point. Fame was on their team for just that one event on Vegas, and now he's a free agent going into next season. But FeLo says that during this game, you know, old habits die hard. He was teabagging some bodies, he was shooting some bodies, and after the map was over, the referee came over and FeLo was like, oh, my guy, like, you know, GG's, you see that map, right? I was fried, right? And then the referee tells her, excuse me, sir, like, you know, you got a couple of strikes on your card for this one. So 2 strikes for that particular map for FeLo. What would have happened had the 3rd strike come around?
I flew off the top ropes like Batman. Kevin Fame was underground. I was like, gra-ta-ta-ta-ta, ripped him. And then it was a 2v1, and I was like, he's got to make a play. So I put Dick in the dirt and just held our street, and attached pushed it. And I went over his body, looked him in the eyes, and then went underground and started teabagging Fame. And then when I did that, after the map, the ref tapped me on the shoulder, and I was like, what's good, bro? We team 1 or team 2? And he went, take off your ear cup. I was like, what's good, fam? He was like, I just want to inform you from the higher ups, you got 2 strikes for that map. And I was like, huh? 2 strikes? 2 strikes? I was like, that's not good.
But you just couldn't find your groove.
Does he talk shit?
Yeah, honestly, we just weren't in flow, and they were just shooting. Honestly, they
yo, the fine's insane. He's not talking shit.
We just had to hit a quick reset. We're switching S&D.
Wait, really?
And
bro, the fine is 11% of your prize money.
Wow. Which is exactly what you did, because that S&D, that 6-1 schooling, that was
so if you get fined and you win the tournament, it's a $16,000 fine.
That's crazy.
So we know that there were 2 other players that supposedly received warnings throughout the weekends, one of which I think was Insight, who got a warning for a particular moment, and I think the other one was Exceed, which obviously does not surprise me at all. But, you know, a couple of players got warnings, and clearly that was another warning there for FeLo, who got 2 strikes. So I'm guessing it's, you know, 3 strikes and you're out, at which point the prize pool will take a dog. And therefore, if Scrappy is to be believed on this one, that the fine was 11% of the prize money for whatever reason, that's kind of a lot of money, right? If you win the tournament, as he says, of course, it's $600,000 for the winning team. So it's funny that Scrappy had obviously done the calculations on this, hadn't he, and said, okay, well, if I get fined this amount and I won with 150k in the bank, then that's going to be roughly 16,000 of that, which is not really what you want. So it seems like the chirping was calmed down to some degree. Was it like, therefore, was the event more tame than it would otherwise have been, right? Did this affect the conduct of players to a great extent? I don't know, maybe it had some impact. I think it would have had some impact, but it didn't feel drastically different to normal on some level, right? Like, I don't know, that was my feeling watching it anyway. Were the players more reserved than usual because of this ruling? Maybe, but probably only marginally, because the players were clearly aware of it, and yet they were still, you know, they were still teabagging, still shooting bodies. And also, if you do get 3 strikes, then, you know, you can do it at least a couple of times. Like, you can chirp a couple of times, you can shoot bodies once, you can do whatever, talk trash across main stage, and then get a warning, get your second warning, and then just don't do it again, right? It's just, I don't want it to take away from the feel of the esport. That's kind of my question on it. And I think the CDL over the last few years has slowly moved away from really caring about stuff like this. Like, when the league first came around in 2019, 2020, the entire goal was to make it like a very professional league. The players have to be really on their game, you know, they can't say anything against anything. And whenever Octane would criticize the league, whenever we'd criticize the game, you know, these were guys were getting handed out fines left, right, and center. And to some extent, it still happens. Like, there was even talk that this season, some fines have been given out for players criticizing the game. Like, those rules still exist. But the problem of the players calling out other players and talking trash and that kind of like sportsmanship aspect, which, you know, to me, the esport is much more entertaining when the players are free to say what they like. I don't think it puts the game into disrepute or whatever they might argue. I can see that argument in regular sports, but in esports, bit of trash talk, bit of body shooting, it actually adds to the experience of the game. And I think that the CDL over the last few years has either recognized that, or they just don't care anymore about like what people are doing and saying, and realize it's too difficult to enforce. Because from the start of the league, when we were having all of these media training sessions with the players, and obviously they had the sensitivity training for Cammy, right? There was lots of things the pros were doing to make it very professional, very sportsmanlike, you know, maintaining the etiquette in the league and all this. And over the last few years in the CDL, it's basically gone away. So I wonder if the same will be true for the World Cup. It's their first year running the World Cup. Maybe they're going to say, all right, guys, let's be sportsmanlike, X, Y, XYZ, but maybe there's a good argument to say that actually over the next few years that's going to turn around and it's going to be kind of more free-flowing as it is now in the Call of Duty League. Regardless, I still thought it was entertaining. Intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Few interesting things here though before we finish off the video. This is the all-time list for championships in Sledgehammer games. So this is Modern Warfare 3, the original one, Advanced Warfare, World War II, Vanguard, and then Modern Warfare 3 with the triple I, obviously the one that we've just currently played, and of course it's Black Ops 6 next, and who knows what Sledgehammer's going to come with after that. Of course there were rumours about Advanced Warfare 2, but I wouldn't get your hopes up, to be fair. Kenny, with a couple of wins this year, gets up to 7, Drazah gets up to 4, and pretty cool to see even the likes of Big Timer still on here with 4 championships, I guess all won in Modern Warfare 3 way back in the day, which is pretty cool to see. Merc, Octane, Zoomer, Accuracy, Slasher, Clay, and Draz, those are your 8th places. Then you get to Attach and Karma at 5, Enable has 6, a fair few of those of course from Advanced Warfare when he was on OpTic, and then FaZe, and then World War II, so that before retiring. Kenny those up to 7, and you know, now basically in, I would say, 2nd place Kenny, really behind the Dynasty in some ways. I mean, Scump, Crim, Formal, that's going to be hard to top. Of course, they won lots of events together in Advanced Warfare, World War II. Scump got another one in Vanguard, and of course Scump was also a beast way back in the day in Modern Warfare 3 as well, in effectively, like, some people even consider that to be his best individual title, which is kind of crazy given how young he was at the time when that game came out. Interesting, I thought, that 100 Thieves Call of Duty, they're still called 100 Thieves Call of Duty. I don't know if we're going to see any name changes here, but there certainly have been rumours over the last few days whether 100T are going to switch it up from LA Thieves and become 100 Thieves Los Angeles or whatever, because, you know, there was the official 100T account was in the replies to Los Angeles Thieves the other day saying, hey, we are, you know, how about you keep our name? And even though the next thing we're going to play in competitive Call of Duty is going to be back to the Call of Duty League, we are still seeing the Los Angeles Thieves with 100T in their bio, 100T in their AVI, and 100 Thieves Call of Duty in their name. Los Angeles Thieves is still the name of the account, and they still say they're the Los Angeles Thieves, but I am personally hoping that we get to a situation where it just becomes 100T again, because I thought watching COD this past weekend with 100 Thieves and Cloud9 and G2 and everything like that was kind of a breath of fresh air compared to what we used to have. And just before we close out the tournament, Cellium's overall victory at the tournament, close out the video, tournament, whatever, you know what I mean. Cellium's 1.38 KD is the highest overall event KD for a tournament winner in CDL history. Now, you might argue this wasn't a CDL event, does it count? But the point being that since the inauguration of the CDL back in 2020, effectively, this is the highest KD anyone has had since then. The record, of course, is Formal, Champs 2017, Dashy with the same KD at a 1.44 at Vegas 2019, but apart from that, you're looking at a fair few champs, actually. This makes sense because a lot of these old school champs events, they would go through groups, and often in the groups, you know, the other teams would be getting slammed. You know, we're talking champs 2019, there would be 32 teams of the tournament, and in your group of 4, it's 5v5, so like lots of those, at least that year was 5v5, so some of those teams are just getting absolutely embarrassed. But Cellium's numbers this event actually did exceed that of many of those other great individual performances, and this is probably the crazier list though. In the CDL era, what are the numbers? Tournament winner, who has the highest KD, all of the top 4 are owned by Cellium. A 1.38, a 1.32, 1.32, 1.31. Then there's a Dashy at Major 1 2022, he had a 1.31. A couple from HyDra as well, which makes sense. A few from Simp on the list as well. But, you know, the records going to Cellium shouldn't really be much of a surprise. He also got another feature, actually, at Major 1 2021, where he also had the highest KD of any player at that tournament with a 1.20, which is, you know, pretty low for Cellium, all things considered. But very much interested your thoughts on all this in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.